Um, Everything that I'm kind of thinking about or sharing or kind of going through, what does it mean? How do we experience conversations with animals? How does it, how does it come by? And if I don't talk about it really, or ask you to talk to me about it, I only have my own experience. And yes, I can turn around and say my experience is valid, obviously. But I'm actually really curious. How do how do we individually, are there certain similarities? Do we share something in common? Are we completely different when it comes to receiving conversation from an animal? Do we even kind of really know what that means, or does that get in the way? Are we kind of thinking about what does it mean when people say, I hear my animal say to me, or, my dog spoke to me the other day? Does that in many ways kind of stop us wondering, what is that? Am I doing it that way? And so my background with wanting to talk about this topic with you lot is because I have wondered that in my early days as learning animal communication. But even till today, I kind of think, what is it like? And I haven't really had a chance to have someone really kind of not explain. We're not looking to explain. We're looking to say, this is what it's like for me. Is this the same? Is it not? I've heard people say various things. So let's check in with you. How would you describe how you communicate with your pets? Or maybe let me rephrase it. How would you describe the way that your pet or another animal, when they speak to you? Is it where you get bits and pieces of information? Is it just like a conversation like you would have with another person? Is it where you can't really pinpoint it? Is it where you get like something and then lots of nothing? What is it? What are your descriptions of it? I'll say a few more highs because we've had a few more join in that I can see. So I'm going to say hi to Babita, hi to Bettina J, hi to Gite, hello Deb. Okay, and thank you, Gita. I've just got your message about me being special. Okay, so as you type in your comments about where you're at with regards to how would you describe the way that conversations or communications are happening with you and your animal. Now, if you're at a place where you go, you know what, that's the bit I don't know, that's why I've tuned in, then say that. And what I like about really inviting you to comment is because those of you who are joining me live, plus the people that are going to be watching it on replay, can really share in our experiences with each other. To me, that's just so valuable, to be open with how we experience animal communication. And I really like that part of it because I learned so much from you. And hopefully I have things to offer you that you can learn. So Bagita, you say it's a conversation. So literally it'll be, you hear it, you reply, you hear it, you reply. So it's so it's the same, would you say, as with another person. So Dale says bits of everything. You get a little visual, but mostly feelings or knowings with lots of nothingness. Okay. That's actually a beautiful summary, Dale. A little bit of visual, mostly feelings or knowings with lots of nothingness. I feel like there's a little tune to go with it. Okay. Right. So thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go and share with you what my thoughts are, and then we can kind of chit chat along the way, shall we? Okay. So I'm going to pull up my visuals as I am learning to be more visual. I am doing more and more slides. So what I'll be covering in this session is to really just discuss with you, and let's just have a think about how hearing our pets talk in words is the ultimate goal in animal communication. Would you agree with that? Is that something that you would really like when you first discovered animal communication and your thoughts are, wouldn't it be great to hear what my pet wants to say to me? So we aim for that. We would aim that the goal would be to have this conversation with our pets that's just like we would with another person. And to have it where it's a two-way conversation, not just us asking questions and not getting much back. To even have discussions about important matters and have a good gossip with them. Would one of these or all of that be something that you are wanting to aim for? Is that your own concept, perhaps, of what you are seeking? So I'm catching up on some comments here. Bettina says, I get short sentences, sometimes just a word or an image. Gite says, sometimes like a conversation, sometimes bits and pieces. Okay. And Gita gives an example. The other day, my cat looked like he had pain. I asked him if it was the stomach, and he sent me pain in my head as an answer. So you got sensations as a reply. Okay. So for those of us who really yearn for this conversational style that we can have with our pets, like we would with another person, makes me therefore question, why do we struggle to hear them in speeches? So I'm making this very specific to how we yearn for the communication from our pets to come to us. And then when we do have thoughts that come into our minds, we're not sure whether that's us or from them. And then we also have scenarios where we ask a question and get nothing back. So it almost feels like the opposite to what we're yearning for. Okay. So what happens as well is when we're not getting that flow of conversation, we start to think we must be doing something wrong, as we see how other animal communicators relay their messages in discussions as if the animal is speaking to them in remarks. Again, I'm being very specific. Would you agree with this, that we believe that it's possible to receive communication from our pets and other animals in the form of a conversation just like we would be having with another person because of what we've witnessed other animal communicators demonstrate? How's a long sentence what I've just said there? Does that resonate with you? Where did it come from for you to desire that the conversation with your pet will be like you could have with another human? Is it because you've seen other animal communicators, maybe when they write their books or maybe when they share stories, they relay their messages and discussions as if the animal is speaking to them? For example, they may say, oh yes, and Catty the cat told me that she doesn't like her food bowl being placed there. They may say something like, Bruno the dog spoke to me the other day and said how much he loved his owner. I'm very interested in your answers. Joe says, my mindset from the other week. So for Joe says, I think for me, it was an assumption and I hadn't considered other ways to connect. So as an assumption, though, would you say it's also because it's called communication, like animal communication? There is an animal communicator who promotes her work using the sentence, you can learn how to communicate with animals, whereby you are not quoting it word for word. But she actually writes, you can communicate with your animal or animals just like you would with another person or another human being. Okay, so that you wouldn't have kind of thought this yourself. It would have come from somewhere. So like I say, either it appears as if the way that the animal communicator is relaying, or you've read about it, or it's been said, or you yourself have experienced it. Okay. And the way I work, for those of you who are familiar with me, I like to almost like go back and go, where did I think this? You know, where did this idea come from? I'm always curious with that, because once I know where it comes from, I can then almost look at it and go, is this actually real, or is this something now I need to review? So that's why I ask these questions. So Brigitte goes, I don't know. Yeah, initially when I ask you that question, it takes a little while to kind of track back to go, why did I think that animals can communicate like another human being can? And why wouldn't they? I'm just asking that question. So Dale says, it sounds like the communicator asked outright and was given an answer. Yeah, agree with Joe, it was an assumption. Okay. So what I like to do is to share with you how you and your pet can have a dialogue. So that's what, to me, the term is. We're looking for a dialogue. Would you agree with that? Because a dialogue is where it's back and forth, and a dialogue is where words are being used. Okay, so I'm going to share with you how you and your pet can have a dialogue in the conversation so that you can understand one another without getting stuck on words. How does that sound so far? But let's first look at the definition of dialogue. Okay, I found this on the internet, what the definition is, and there were hundreds of definitions, but I particularly like this one. It said, dialogue is a written or spoken conversational exchange between two or more people. I've added the species, and the literary and theoretical. You're going to struggle with that word. I'm going to try again. Dialogue is a written or spoken conversational exchange between two people or two or more people, species, and a literary and theatrical form that depicts such an action. I like this definition because of what I've put in bold. I can't repeat it because I can't say that word again. But it's the literal part and the theatrical part. That's what I really like about this. So let's really understand the definition or what we mean by dialogue. Okay, because to me, that's what we're looking for. We say something to our pet, they answer back. We say something to them, they answer back. There is this ongoing dialogue. So I'm going to share with you that there are three ways to have a dialogue: verbal commentary, internal speech, and via writing. Verbal commentary. This is where we speak out loud as we give and receive communication. And perhaps we are the most familiar with verbal commentary, or maybe being more verbal as we give the communication. Perhaps not so much as we receive, but we're more used to speaking out loud to our own pets, aren't we? So to me, the benefits of a verbal commentary as you are giving and receiving a communication is this can help you to notice more easily what you're experiencing. It also helps you to stay focused. I find that it's actually very motivating, and it allows you to process the intuitive senses. So what do I mean by this? So imagine that you're going to verbalize everything. So, for example, you say, let's use Gita's experience, where she's wanting to know if her cat is in pain. So you verbalize this, you are saying it out loud, and you're going to give a commentary. So you start by saying, are you in pain? Now, normally you would have got used to just waiting for the answer for it to come into your mind. But one of the ways to have a dialogue with your pet is to be verbal, both giving and receiving. So you've got to be their spokesperson. So Gita will be going, hey, are you in pain? And then as she receives the pain in her stomach, she'll also give it a verbal commentary like, oh, okay, I get that you've got a pain in your stomach, right? And when you're doing that, you are actually noticing what you're experiencing. You're actually very focused. Your mind isn't wandering off, because when you're speaking out loud, that's your main focus. So it's actually quite good if you find that your mind wanders off. You're motivated because you're in the moment, you're in action, and you can process the intuitive senses because you suddenly go, oh, hang on a minute, I can feel the sensation in my stomach. Oh, hang on a minute, something else is going down my throat here. Okay, so that's the verbal commentary part of it. The second type of dialogue is an internal speech. This is probably the one that we question more than anything else. So internal dialogue is the result of certain brain mechanisms that cause you to hear yourself talk in your head without actually speaking and forming sounds. Right now, I believe that when we were young, we were innocent, playful children, we did a lot of external dialogue when we were playing, as well as internal dialogue. Who can remember that when they were young, that they did a lot of internal dialogue? Perhaps my thoughts go to, perhaps when we were kids, we very likely verbalized a lot of our thoughts and our imagination. And perhaps at a certain point, we may be told to, shush, shush, stop talking out loud. So we then internalize our imagination, internalize all the things that were going on that we were, immersed in, whether we're playing, whether we're creating. So we learned to have internal dialogue. Can I just double check that you are familiar with having internal dialogue? I'm not making an assumption that everybody has internal dialogue. Do you find that you do chatter to yourself? You hear yourself in your mind? So as I ask that question, I'm going to catch up on your previous messages. So Joe says, having to think about it, but I'm really not sure where the idea of spoken conversation came from. I do give my dogs internal voices, so that doesn't help. Okay. Bettina says, I was happy receiving short messages and answers until I heard and read that other people were having real conversations. Ooh, that's very difficult to define that short messages and answers are not real. So Bettina, that's really important for you to reframe. We have a tendency to put more value onto something if it's as quantity. Almost like if somebody said one word and somebody said 10 words, we say the 10 words is the one that is more valuable. And it's not necessarily true. We can have one vital word that transforms a person's mindset, and you can have 10 words of which maybe 8 are unnecessary. Okay, so can you see how important it is when you're sharing with me and you're popping in the comment? It makes it where you are given the opportunity to review where you are collecting these information from that you have automatically decide is true. But if it doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve your animal communication process where it allows your animal communication learning to be flowing, then you would want to review it. Okay, so let's see. Brigitte says all the time for her internal dialogue. Hear that? Yes. Ite says yes. Bettina says yes. And Bettina J says yes. Okay, so we all are familiar with internal dialogue. So basically, the internal speech or internal dialogue is where we have transferred the verbal commentary into private speech. So let's look at the benefits of internal speech. This can actually help you rehearse different scenarios and questions. So when you're about to communicate with your pet, if you were not doing it verbally and you were doing it internally as an internal speech, you have the time or you have the space to almost go through different questions, different scenarios, like, is this what my pet would understand? Is this how I would approach them? Are they in the mood yet to talk to me? You know, you can actually, in many ways, do so much more in your mind. This is quicker. To me, it helps us to stay very connected to our pet, because when you're having an internal dialogue, you're keeping that connection strong. I also find that you can tune into more than one dialogue. So you might think, I want to speak to, a pet, but if you have more than one pet, you might suddenly realize, hang on a minute, there's another conversation coming in at me here. And I also find that when it's internal speech, the information, the way that information comes in and goes out is much quicker compared to if you were verbalizing it. So let's look at another form of dialogue. This is through writing, through a script format. So you would have the speaker, and then you would have, your pet, or you have your pet. So you literally write it out in a script format, like you were writing out a play or a, theater script. And you can also use it as storytelling. So let's look at the benefits of writing as a form of dialogue that you can have with your pet. This can help you to capture your stream of consciousness in action. Now, what do I mean by stream of consciousness? This is where you write and you don't edit and you don't stop and you don't decide whether it makes sense or not. You're just letting the pen go across the piece of paper. The benefits of writing can also help you to see the tangible result of your experience. It becomes where you can actually read it on a piece of paper. You've made it real in terms of the fact that somebody else can say, oh yeah, that happened. If you compare that with internal speech, for example, nobody knows what's going on. And the moment you stop having those thoughts, it's like you have no record of it. So one of the benefits of writing as a form of dialogue is that you can see the tangible result. And so often we hear people who use writing where they read it back after the communication has finished and they go, did I really write that? Yeah. I also find that the benefits of writing is where you can express yourself creatively. And it's an opportunity when you're in that stream of consciousness as well, where you can really connect with the inner wisdom and inspired messages that come through. So here's my question to you at this point. Did you think that there were 3 types of dialogue? Or did you think that dialogue was either A, verbal commentary, B, internal speech, or C, just through writing? So now you know that there are 3 types of dialogue. Would you agree? I don't know. I just decided there were 3 types of dialogue, which would help when it comes to communicating with my own animals and other animals, so that I'm not limited to thinking dialogue means just one thing. And then when I'm not doing it that way, I think I'm not having a dialogue. So has it opened up to you that dialogue can come in a different form than what perhaps you were expecting or what you have been used to? Because I would like us to experience all 3 types of dialogue with our pets. So Gita says she uses all 3. Aha! So we're on the same page. Okay. So let me ask you, which is your dialogue style? Which one do you think you are most comfortable with? Which one you're more drawn to? Is it verbal? Is it internal? Is it writing? Yeah, Odita, perhaps even more. Tina J says, I've used all three, but had forgotten. And you see, we know more than we give ourselves credit for, huh? Dale says, I never thought about it, but it makes sense that dialogue can be more than I talk, they answer. Well, they do answer, but do they answer through writing? Do they answer through internal speech? Do they answer through you having to be their voice verbally, external, outer speech? So now we have choices. And you know I like choices. So what I want to do now is kind of break it down a little bit by sharing with you what I experience when I talk about having a dialogue with my pets and other animals. This is, I don't know what you think about my visuals. I do my best. I kind of put this together to try and transfer my experience onto something visual, okay? So let's take this beautiful cat, and this cat is sharing with us through visual, through sound, through sensations, through smell, through emotions, okay? So these are all the intuitive senses that this cat is communicating, but through these intuitive senses. So when we connect in with the cat, we are therefore translating what we are receiving from the cat. Now, I believe we don't get exactly what the other species is sending us or is telling us about. That's my own understanding. We would get similar because it all, again, depends on our own experiences, our own interpretation. So if you look on the left-hand side, that to me is what could be the interpretation or the translation of what the cat is sending us. So it's similar, okay? Then we get to this point where the dialogue begins. So at this stage, let me go back to this slide here. At this stage, nothing appears to be happening on the outside. It doesn't even feel like a conversation because you're getting a visual, then you're getting an emotion. You might get it all, kind of like together or collectively. You won't just get, a visual, then an emotion. It kind of comes in a bundle, doesn't it? And it can come and go really quickly. So if we kind of split it out, we can say, oh, yes, I saw a visual of this. Yes, I smelt that. Yes, I heard that. But when we're actually receiving it, it just comes. Yeah, it just comes and goes. It's in the breaking it down that we go, wow, actually, there was so much information in that one hit. So this is really what I'm trying to depict here. Okay. So at this point, there doesn't feel like a conversation. It just feels like, yeah, I'm receiving information. So most of us are familiar with this, I would say. Now, this is what happens when you decide to verbalize it, okay? So either outer dialogue or inner dialogue. So I'm showing you that if you then decide to verbalize this by saying, I see a field. Is that where you are right now? Oh, you're in the field hiding and keeping cool. Are you enjoying stretching out in the sun? Are you feeling happy? Oh, I see. This is your favorite spot. Will you be coming home soon? I'm not getting anything from you, so you're saying you don't know. So this is my process. This is what happens when I'm receiving the visual, the sound, the smell, the taste, the sensations, the emotions from my animal. I'm either verbalizing it outwardly or I'm internally going through this conversation for both myself and the cat. So when I do it both ways, it starts to look like, or starts to be experienced like a dialogue. But if I don't verbalize it for the cat, I'm going to be there going, it feels like I'm talking to myself, but I know I'm connected with my cat. Okay, so I hope I haven't lost any of you yet at this point. Okay. Now, what happens when you have a middle person, okay, come into the picture? So the cat still is sharing the same visual, the same sound, the same smell, the same emotion, and the animal communicator is now translating and relaying, right? So there's two processes going on. She or he will have her own internal dialogue, but she will relay it verbally. So she will say, or he will say things like, your cat is not thinking about coming home anytime soon. He's having a lovely time where he is. He's telling me about this field where the sun is warm against his skin and he can hear the rustling of the leaves. He says not to worry about him as he's feeling happy. He says this is his favorite place to hide out. So the adult communicator is having her own internal dialogue. However, he or she has to relay it verbally to you. So this is how it would come across. So then there's us standing there going, oh, wow, I wish my cat would talk to me this way. I don't hear him speaking words like that. Yeah, so let me just check your messages. So we've got preferred dialogue style. Dale is internal. Bettina J is internal. Brigitte is internal. Here says verbal and internal. Brigitte says you like my visual. Ah, you boost my confidence. Thank you very much. All right. So I hope that I'm going to present to you a light bulb moment. It's through the act of relaying the intuitive senses experience that creates the dialogue experience. Anybody agree that this could be a breakthrough for you? What I mean by that is it doesn't feel like a dialogue when we are not relaying. If you're only yourself experiencing it and you're having the conversation in your head without also verbalizing it or giving it a voice to your pet, then it doesn't feel like a dialogue experience. It is because it can be either the internal one, the verbal one, or the writing. In many ways, it's also the same with the writing. It's because you're making it, you're relaying it, then it becomes like, oh, wow, that's a conversation. I really had a conversation with my pet. But you have to give your pet the voice in order for it to be a dialogue. I tried my hardest to see how I can explain this, because this is really my understanding of the way it works for me. So let me see. Oh, Dale, you got a light bulb. Okay, and Deb says this makes perfect sense. Simple, really, isn't it? But a lot of it has been based upon our expectations of what we've observed, how somebody's related to us. You know, if you book a session with an animal communicator, they don't say something like, oh yeah, your cat sent me a visual of this, and then I have a sensation of that, and then I got the smell. Because their job is to translate and make the session as smooth as possible. So they'll say, your cat doesn't like the smell of the blanket that's in the room that she sleeps in. So it really sounds like the cat told her exactly that. So the secret's revealed in terms of how I receive communication and how I relate. So I like to kind of round off this Facebook Live by asking them, how much would you like to be able to communicate with your pets and all animals? Are you willing to put the effort in to get there? And it does require effort, but the effort should be joyous. The effort should be exciting. And you would want to feel kind of like you want to be focused and motivated to get there. Remember in my last Facebook Live, I speak about how we are all gifted, but a gift can just remain a gift. To communicate with our pets fluently, to have a dialogue, even to try out this commentary where you give both parties a voice, something tangible. That takes practice for you to really experience it. And when you practice and you experience it, and you put the effort in, and it doesn't feel like trying, but it feels like, oh, this is like, I'm going to explore, I'm going to see what it's like. Then it really allows you to move into the fluency. And that to me is what I'd like to help you aim for, is to have a fluency of communication with your pet. So no longer are you just saying, I want to communicate with my pet. I want you to have fluency. I want you to just, because with fluency, you can enjoy it better. Yeah. Let's see what your thoughts are so far. So Peter J says, well explained, it makes sense. Bagita says, do you mean it's our interpretation of all the messages and senses? Yeah, because we are interpreting, we are translating it. It is our interpretation. And very much it is our, when you, yeah, in terms of when you're saying the dialogue is us verbalizing and relaying everything that we're receiving, I would say so. Does that answer your question, Bagita? Is that what you're asking? You mean it's our interpretation of all the messages? It is our interpretation. I can't see how else, you know, we can't show another person how, we can't say to another person, this is exactly what the cat showed me. To me, I think there's still some interpretation of what the cat's showing us. So the same cat will show us the same feel, but I would receive it differently to you, Bagita, I would say, because I would only have a certain level of experience or information about the feels that I can bring up in my imagination. So that's why, you know, it is an interpretation. That's why it becomes a unique offering from each animal communicator, because we are all different. We'll have similarities. We can all say, I see a field, but the detail of the field likely to be different. Maybe have some similarities. Maybe maybe we can see some trees, but we wouldn't see exactly the same trees. It's up for discussion. I'll be interested to know what you think about that answer. Okay. Right. So I'd like to just do a recap about the importance of communicating with our pets. It really helps us to connect with the telepathy. This is where we're spontaneous. This is where we learn to send and receive information. This is where we can connect without need for words. To me, this is a really precious practice where there's no pressure, where you really, really develop your intuitive sense. So this is where we are not looking for a dialogue in words, but we're looking in many ways a dialogue of intuitive senses. So that's something new that's just come to me. How about a dialogue of intuitive senses? Then we really move into the conversing part where we are translating. There is an interpretation aspect of it. So this is how we understand, the way to interpret it, how we can send thoughts, feelings, and understanding in their language. When you say something like, are you happy? Let's make sure we can translate what happy is to them, because you want them to understand what you mean by happy so that they can answer in the way that is relevant. And the competency. This is the fluency thing. You know, when you become fluent, you can really discuss deeper conversation, have deeper conversation, talk about more sensitive topics, talk about it's limitless. You can start a project, you can read a book and share stories and have ideas. And I've asked my dog about articles that I've read where people have done research, you know, on say dog behavior. And I actually communicate with my dogs by going, do you agree with this article? And I actually help give me inspired kind of thoughts and ideas around what they think or what they don't. And sometimes I don't really get what they're saying, so I'll go off and search on it. And it's fascinating what comes through. So when you get to the fluency part, this is where the fun begins. And as always, our pet gives us the validation and the proof that we need, that they can really hear what we're saying and understand what we're saying, because they will give us the way that they are with us, the way they interact with us, and the way that they behave with us. So when you get to that point, when you have fluency, you have confidence. With fluency, it's just so natural to go, yeah, I'm not even questioning it. So as a result of the confidence, you're going to consistently have communications. You're going to understand the information you receive without going, oh gosh, you know, am I doing it right? Am I not? All those questions just don't happen anymore. You can effectively guide and support your pet to reveal what's causing the issue. So again, of course, we want communication because there are lots of things about our pets that we want to check in on them because they can't verbalize in the way that would bring our attention. But we really if you cultivate a communication relationship with them, you really can get to a place where they can nudge you either by a behavior or telepathic nudge to go, there is something that I really need you to pay attention to. So just to recap my 4-step framework, it has to work together. They don't work in isolation. The connecting aspect, the conversing aspect, the being competent and working towards fluency aspect, the having the confidence to maintain your motivation. Each of these steps need to work together. If one of this step is missing, to me, you'll find that there's going to be gaps in the way that you are communicating with your pet. The way these 4 steps work together helps you to really be clear about your personal communication process so you don't doubt it. It allows you to be proud of your own style and not compare yourself with other people. And to me, this is the part that really helps us to be fluent. It allows us to be creative as well as specific with our questions. So it makes answering our questions easier for our pets. And then cherry on the top is the self-belief, that you don't doubt yourself. You're not saying things like, am I making this up? Why would I be thinking that? You know, like, gosh, that's random. It can't be true. So self-belief really is a massive motivating factor to want to continue to develop your communication. And for those of you who know, I am particularly proud of my Pet Communication Quick Start course. For those of you who have completed this course, it's something that I am going to continually offer out there because it gives you not just the foundation of the 4-step, but it really helps you to develop your own style, your own way of recognizing that communicating with your pets is real. So I will be sharing the link in the comments after this Facebook Live. So if you know somebody that you believe would really benefit from learning the Quick Start course, then please tag them in. So what do you think? So now we know there are 3, at the moment, I'm sure there's more, 3 types of dialogue, and which one do you choose, and which one are you going to go out and try it out? And does it help you now to know that you probably were having a dialogue with your pet? You might just need to take it a little bit, you know, the next step. i.e., verbalize it, or actually relay when you're doing it with yourself, just you and your pet, just because you haven't got somebody else to relay it to, relay it back to yourself. And if you really want to try how it works for adult communities, relay what your pet has said to you to a friend. And then you'll go, wow, we were having a conversation, just like I would with a human being. So I hope it's been useful. As always, I like my Facebook Lives to be a mixture of teaching, a mixture of sharing, a mixture of a little bit of entertainment. And but I really, really love your input. So I want to thank you for that. Okay, I shall see you again soon. There will be another Facebook Live next week. I have got the topic in my head already. I just got to create it. Okay, thank you for joining me.